Happy Saturday. My name is Dr. Carter, and today we'll talk about how to win with artificial intelligence and career growth. What is winning in public health? Well, one of the ways that you can win professionally is to continue to look beyond your resume, beyond your current job, and then begin to think about what type of skills you need to upskill. And one of these that we hear a lot about, and that is artificial intelligence. So today we'll take an opportunity really to look beyond what we typically look at on a day-to-day basis, which is how am I performing in my job? What would my next job be? What is my next 5 years? Next 10 years? The common thing that your current job, your current performance, the next 5 years, and the next 10 years, one of the things that all of those have in common is that you generally have some degree of control over that. You generally will gauge your performance, you'll have a conversation with your manager, and then you'll come to terms on how well you're actually meeting your performance objectives. Secondly, when we think about what the next 10 years looks like, we often will look at what we expect. We'll look at maybe folks that we want to emulate in certain types of jobs, or we'll look at our mentors and we'll come up with an actual plan. And that plan will typically map things out in a very traditional way. When we look at artificial intelligence, and what impact is having on the overall workforce, the overall landscape, career fields, and everything, we got to really begin to think about and look beyond the traditional trajectory of 5 years and 10 years. And so, one of the things that we have to do is really look at what you can do to level up your actual skills. So again, I want to thank you for joining me today in the Power Hour. And what we're going to talk about really is spend 20, 30, 40 minutes really looking at what are the biggest opportunities in public health. And again, this is not just some workshop or or conversation. This is really ensuring that you're not left behind. So again, what is uniquely human? What can you basically do to go beyond the return on investment that we typically think about in a current 5 year and 10-year career trajectory? So one of the things we'll end with is looking at different clear strategies and what are some of the new motivations, what are some of the practical steps that you need to take right now to ensure that your career is on path. So why is this important? Well, the world is changing fast. So again, artificial intelligence is just not about robots, self-driving cars, it's everywhere. It can be utilized across the spectrum. So we have to look at, okay, if artificial intelligence is everywhere, public health is often integrated into a variety of technologies. Public health is going to be transformed in a way that's not just influenced by public health professionals, but externally. So we often integrate systems, we integrate health systems, we integrate different types of technology that may be monitoring the environment. We often pull from things like electronic health records. And so one of the things you got to know as a public health professional is how these different technologies are being transformed and transforming individual career fields so that you can basically say, okay, what do I need to know in order to be able to maximize opportunities across these various sectors and where I actually sit within public health. And so the most successful pros adapt and lead. Okay. The most successful pros adapt and lead. Will you be one of those, or will you be following? One of the challenges moving forward in the future with public health and just artificial intelligence and the overall use of predictive analytics for things like outbreaks, personalized medicine, just your normal everyday health record. When you look at what the art of the possibility is today, it's amazing. I'll give you an example. I had an MRI back in April. I had an MRI a few days ago. I was able to basically, first of all, get a professional opinion, and then I was able to kind of map out based on where my MRI results were and where they are today, and really leverage artificial intelligence to predict based on the changes in what was seen on MRI, where um, the overall healing process might be, and whether or not, based on historical records and artificial intelligence, whether or not that healing process was on a positive glide path, normal, and then interacted and said, okay, what are the type of things based on where I am now that I can actually do to accelerate the overall healing process? That's the beautiful piece of artificial intelligence. But again, you have to be able to actually interact with it. Also, you have to know when what the AI is telling you may not necessarily be reality. So we know that currently, due to whether it's lack of data or um, artificial intelligence filling in the gap, sometimes artificial intelligence will tell you, I don't have a very scientific or theoretical or data-driven response, but this is what I actually have. At times, it will hallucinate. It will actually make up something altogether. So it's important to basically have a good understanding of artificial intelligence, enough to know that, yeah, this can't be possible, but in many cases there may be things that may be possible. So you have to know, how do I use prompt engineering to be able to engage with artificial intelligence in a way that I can get meaningful discussion, meaningful results. So again, public health is evolving fast. As I mentioned before, predictive analytics is one of the main ways that has been driven fast. A lot of predictive analytics have really moved away from traditional statistical approaches to others that actually incorporate different types of AI predictive models that are utilized really across the spectrum. Things like AI models that can predict maintenance schedules. Many of those are being utilized in public health just to better understand how and where to invest public health resources. So again, what are you going to do? Are you going to adapt and lead, or will you be one of the folks that get left behind? So think about the last time that technology changed in a way that worked, and how did you engage with it? How did you respond? When you hear about technological advances, are you one of the people that basically say, I don't want to learn that, or, oh, that's not going to work, or people will never. If you're one of those people, then you have to change your mindset. In this environment, you got to at least be neutral, open. Let me try it, okay? And then as you're trying it, you remain neutral, unbiased. And so that is something that's critical and will continue to be extremely critical in the world as things continue to accelerate and move forward. So when we think about career growth with AI, it's huge. The bottom line is huge. Career growth today means continuously learning, okay? Micro credentials, certifications, all those are game changers. You have to up your skills fast and prove it. The days of individuals just basically putting on their resume, having a small interview, maybe a second round or third round, and it's really they're able to camouflage what they know, those days are over. You will have to prove it. In many cases, employers are asking and potential employees to do things in interviews are, hey, can you perform this particular task? Let me give you a data set. Take a look at this. You have to basically say, okay, how can I because they were trying to figure out, can you critically think? Can you solve problems? And they want to basically be able to say, okay, on day one, am I getting somebody that's actually performing, or am I getting someone that is going to get into the position and not be able to actually perform? So employees are looking at different creative ways in order to test the knowledge of their future employees. If you walked into an interview today and your employer handed you a task that required you to interact with artificial intelligence, would you be savvy enough to be able to leverage that to be able to produce a timely response? Okay. The job market is evolving fast. You got to get ahead of it, or you'll be left behind for sure. And so, one important aspect, as I mentioned before, the folks that's going to be successful are the folks that are able to what continuously learn and ensure that whatever skills they currently have, they're able to maintain those skills in a way that's positive, that's actionable, that can demonstrate on day one that whatever skills their employees or employer is requiring, they can walk right in and apply those on day one. There's not a lot of ramp up. And so you got to be looking at, okay, what are the trends and skills? And if you do apply for a position, you got to know that the skills you currently possess are the skills that's going to give you an opportunity to be able on day one to launch into that position and be successful. Personal branding, your digital launchpad. So, as I mentioned in my notes, to try and get everybody here listen to the conversation today, employers are basically looking at your digital footprint. Okay, one of the ways they look at it right off is your LinkedIn is one of the best ways to showcase yourself. So many individuals are actually getting job opportunities from LinkedIn and similar platforms. Again, most prospective employees will have their LinkedIn, their name, some information, and then their actual LinkedIn link. If you don't have that, employers will ask for it, or you may not get an interview altogether. It's often their first impression of you, so you got to make it count. So you may actually have to identify someone, if you're not very good at it, to help you actually build your LinkedIn profile so that when you're looking for job opportunities, you can showcase your best self. Showcase your wins, highlight certifications, share articles, celebrate achievements. Um, you also want to ensure that you're looking ready for opportunities. And so it's important basically to set reminders to update your LinkedIn profile at least one accomplishment per week, in particular if you're looking for job opportunities. Also, one of the things that, even if you're not applying for jobs, um, mentors or other folks may share your profile because they may hear about, hey, there's an opportunity. So your branding may be being distributed without your even knowledge, without even applying for opportunities. So you got to ensure that your digital brand, your digital launch pad is something that's going to help position you for opportunities because otherwise you're is otherwise, you'll be at a significant disadvantage. So, networking is one of the things that's actually changed a ton. Used to be you'd attend in-person events to build a powerful network. However, now when we look, virtual events, webinars are great ways to connect globally. You can connect with power players anywhere in the world. Often workshops and webinars will have breakout rooms where you have an opportunity to actually connect with folks and understand kind of what their challenges might be in their industry or where they are in the world. And so also AI makes networking smarter and faster. So you can really begin to build networks, in particular, so many organizations that have, lunch and learn opportunities and a whole variety of opportunities that allow you to basically engage in hours around the time that basically best works for you. So again, it's important for you to basically reach out to people, and engage with them, because again, sometimes, as I mentioned on the previous slide, folks may be out there and they'll hear about an opportunity and they say, "Oh wow, since you reached out, this is an opportunity for you to be able to connect with someone." They may say, "Hey, I know of an opportunity. I'm glad you reached out. It's an opportunity that may be perfect for you. So let me, can you pass on your LinkedIn profile, or can I pass your information on to someone that I know that's looking for opportunity? Are you in a position to accept an opportunity?" So best times to upskill and train. So when we look at how often we get busy throughout the day, we become stressed, or we're commuting, or we're just, by the end of the day, we're completely consumed. And many people don't actually have the time throughout the day to basically look at, review their profiles, look at what training they may need to actually get to be ready for a position. So again, just some recommendations. Maybe early morning before the workday start, you could take a few 10, 15 minutes or so and look for opportunities and look for ways that you can improve your overall profile. Lunchtime, or maybe even sometimes, say, Sunday evening, you can plan to basically tackle some online courses when distractions may be low, or you can also use that time to kind of look around for opportunities or reach out to some of your LinkedIn network friends and see if anybody knows of any opportunities. Let them know that you're available for opportunities to move on maybe to a new position. And this is something you should be doing continuously. If you're noticing at the best times, I've broken out by days of the week, um, and times throughout the week. But this is something, until you are ready to retire, you should be looking for opportunities, because you never know when something's going to come into your life. Um, and particularly, you may get laid off, or your company may be downsizing. There's a whole host of things that could happen that may introduce turbulence into your overall life, and cause you to look for opportunities. And so you should be looking specifically at your resume, looking at what skills you currently have, what skills you need to be learning to acquire new skills, so that if you're actively seeking an opportunity, or something basically comes into play where you have to seek opportunity, you're prepared. And then you have to treat your training like a fitness routine. Well, if you don't exercise, treat it better than a fitness routine. But you want to treat your training, you want to treat building your resume, acquiring new skills like a fitness routine. You want to put it on your calendar, and you want to protect the times. Okay, I'm going to take this 30 minutes, 15 minutes, hour. You have it to basically improve my overall skills. So uh, this is important for you to take that time. And so when we look at um, the next few slides, the next few minutes, I want to talk a little bit about the AI advantages and why it's a game changer, and basically some important things that you need to do. And then we'll look at, maybe why there's some disadvantages, and then basically how, as public health professionals, do you leverage all of this to become more marketable and relevant in a rapidly changing environment. So first of all, artificial intelligence has lots of advantages. That's why it's actually considered game changer. So the first one I find very interesting, because it speaks directly to all of us, and that is, it reduces human error, right? So precise and accurate every time. Okay, I did mention before that AI can hallucinate, but humans also make stuff up and hallucinate as well. But what you tend to see is, specifically with repetitive tasks and tasks that may be one or two steps removed from an overall step in the process, the AI basically can reduce that human error, because it's pulling from a lot of data, It's looking at a wide variety. So unless there's, say, for example, medication error. So you got maybe a patient that's receiving medication um, on a regular cycle, individual performing public health surveillance, is surveilling, whatever it is. Okay. There may be, for example, they misfile a document or they enter a number that's incorrect and it should be something else. Well, with AI, a lot of that will basically, first of all, if there is a human error, it will actually mark that human error often because it's not consistent. If I'm receiving medication the same time of day, every day, also maybe I'm measuring some physiological data because I'm in the hospital, you can actually see the impact per se of what's going on physiologically with the actual medication. If I don't actually see that change and I can see that consistent physiological change every day and is not documented in the actual charts, then they could flag that event as a mismatch in a physiological response and information has not been entered. So, for example, if the nurse physician says, "Oh yeah, I gave Joey his medication," those data will basically corroborate that maybe it wasn't the case. So it can actually be utilized. So you think about it, it reduces human error, but it also can be utilized to train humans how to make fewer mistakes because we're probably a little ways off from where the robot is actually going each room to room. If the patient is needs particular services, the robot is probably not necessarily at the point where it can perform all those services, but it can be leveraged as a partner to ensure that the humans actually make less errors. So that's one way of looking at it. Now, unfortunately, that is a lot of documentation. So if you're making a lot of errors today as an employee, this will basically provide data that maybe your current employee doesn't particularly have, which could put your overall employment at risk. So how do you basically leverage this? First of all, you get to know the technology is doing it, and also you look at basically how can I be more precise and accurate every time? And then what am I doing that's uniquely human? Again, AI works 24/7. There's no coffee breaks, just results. Makes decisions smarter and faster. Data, not drama. So if you're contributing to a lot of drama in the workplace, you will help them to back off because again, that would make leveraging artificial intelligence a lot more attractive to your employer. And so automates boring stuff. So it's an opportunity for you to leverage AI, basically get more out of your time. So, okay, are the things I'm actually doing throughout the day that basically is repetitive, could be looked at as being boring. How can I leverage AI to actually do that aspect? Or if you're running a team, how can I basically leverage AI to basically do some of the tasks that they're doing, not necessarily get rid of them, but to also up their game where they can do more critical thinking versus just mundane data entry tasks. Personalize your learning path. AI recommends the right courses for you to win in a complex public health environment. So it's just some ways. So when we look at what are some of the disadvantages, right? So disadvantages that generally, and so I look at this chart basically as if it's a disadvantage, artificial intelligence, it's an actual advantage for you, or you can turn into an advantage. So lacks creativity and emotional intelligence. AI isn't a genius, you are. Okay, so what does that mean? Bottom line is that you got to continue to be creative, demonstrate emotional intelligence, and actually be there. And so what you don't want to do is just get to the point where you're using artificial intelligence and you're not creatively thinking. Also, privacy and security risks. This is important, particular for you to basically embrace is critical for you basically to say, okay, what am I doing as a human to ensure that my institutions, my own data is held with the correct amount of privacy and security so that we actually minimize those risks. And yes, is that AI will replace some jobs, but it won't replace the ones who are actually creating and managing and processing the actual AI. There will be jobs, but you have to figure out what those jobs are and ensure that if you're in one of those jobs today, that you actually put yourself on a trajectory to be able to move out of it based on what you've learned up to this point. Yes, AI can be biased. It can go wrong, and it's if you're leveraging AI, it's important for you to always double check to make sure that what the answer is that you're being provided actually makes sense. Because as I mentioned before, it can hallucinate, produce information that's not necessarily accurate. So you as a human, you have to make sure, okay, what do I need to do to be able to validate that this AI is not correct, and then develop the actual solution. And then tech dependence. Don't lose your critical thinking or your critical edge due to just like, okay, somebody says we need to write something, so I go AI it. Okay, so winning as a public health professional in an AI rich environment, the things that you can definitely do is stay curious, as I mentioned before. Be committed to lifelong learning and tech and health. I mentioned those in particular because you got to look at those as base requirements. Public health is not just based on health. There's a huge, probably 80-90% of the tech that's driving healthcare is driving public health in a similar way. So you got to basically embrace that overall change. And and then you have to basically, as I mentioned several times, embrace AI as a partner, not as a replacement, not as a competitor, and use AI tools to amplify the impact that you're having. So really take ownership, really look at, okay, how am I interacting with AI? Am I just using, periodic AI to ask some questions, or am I truly trying to incorporate it into my life to basically look at, okay, today I can contribute 8 to 10 hours, but I can produce 14 to 15 hours high quality work that I'm critically thinking about and I'm committed to basically owning. Build bridges, combine your people skills, ethics, and most importantly, not most importantly, but it's increasingly important, is how tech savvy you are. Take ownership of data and privacy, be a role model for others. All of these are going to be things that's going to ensure that so you got to learn first of all what the data and privacy rules are within your company, within your state. What's the overall standard, and then speak up and shape ethical guidelines and a responsible use of AI in health and in public health. So I'll leave you at a few points today. One of those is very passionate about, and that is to maximize your growth. You got to learn when you're most alert. You got to look at periods of time when you can take advantage of what's going on in your brain where you have the least amount of distractions. And so you have to figure out when that is. Some folks that may be in the morning, some maybe lunchtime, and some later at night. But you got to figure out when that is. Leverage that time to actually grow. Make upskilling a weekly habit. Routine creates results. Okay, so routine creates results. So make sure you're doing something every week to ensure that you are changing, that what you're doing is leading to a better standing within your work, within the community where you want to work, and what aligns with maybe realistic as your next job opportunity. Be proactive, stay relevant, and let your career soar. I'm confident that there will be humans working, probably the same number of humans or more working in the future. I think unemployment rates will always continue to be low. However, when you look, there'll be certain jobs today that humans are doing maybe in a large number, and there'll be fewer humans doing that. And then there'll be probably maybe some degree of humans doing things that may be routine task, but it's the cost point is just not there to replace those humans with artificial intelligence. Robotics is just cheaper in the interim, but at some point those robots will get bigger and we'll see more machine man interface. So you got to know when that is. How does it intersect with what you're doing? If 80-90% of what you're doing can be done by artificial intelligence, then you need to look at what else can I do to be relevant. So connect, learn and win with AI in public health. Um, yeah, just remember that one of the things that you can do is look at, okay, what am I doing today? And then what's going on with artificial intelligence? What are some of the trends? And then is what I'm doing right now being replaced at an alarming rate? What are the trends? And then is it the type of things that I'm doing? Um, I see opportunities where artificial intelligence can make me do that even better. So those type of questions I ask yourself. And then also, as I mentioned early on, are you are you in a position where you are ensuring that your online presence is indicative of how you prefer to represent yourself? Okay, so again, thank you for joining. Hopefully you walked away with some things that maybe were familiar to you, and it's just a reminder of what you need to do, or maybe you heard something new and stuff like that. So just definitely reach out, connect if you have any questions or would like to chat about anything I talked about today. Other than that, have a great day. Bye bye.